So usually we release a video every other week. That's because on those weeks that we don't release a video, I'm releasing a blog post on my website. Last week's blog post was on 10 medicinal herbs to plant this year. Go ahead and read that if you're interested. The link will be in the description below. I have a video already prepared for release this Friday. However, I wanted to go ahead and post this video because I went to the store yesterday just to get some odd and end things for meal prepping and stuff. I found that there were a lot of bare shelves, which when I spoke to the cashier, I asked her, I said, was this due to the snowstorms that we've had recently? Are people clearing off the shelves? She said yes. However, she also said, but we're also having trouble getting trucks in and so forth. And I've done some digging around recently. I've asked some of the local stores, hey, just out of curiosity, have we felt the supply chain shortages yet? Have we felt anything like that? Cashiers at different stores say yes. Sometimes the trucks are late, or when they do show up, they have less than what we ordered. No secret that supply chain shortage is real. Supply chain crisis, whatever we're calling it. I started prepping a few years ago, probably right before we got the cottage. There were people that were interested in what I was doing, but could take it or leave it. Then there were people who thought it was absolutely unnecessary. And one person even thought it was unbiblical, which I find that interesting because I find that it might be biblical. God did tell Joseph to prepare for the famine that was to come. Noah prepared for the flood. The Bible speaks on go to the ant thou sluggard, and talks about how the ant prepares for winter and so forth. I think being prepared is a very biblical concept. I don't prep in fear, I prep in faith. But everyone has their own opinions, and that's fine. Prepping comes with a connotation of a tinfoil hat and conspiracy theorists, stuff like that. It's not necessarily the case, and especially now that people are seeing these shortages. This poor sweet old lady came up to me yesterday and she was like, do you know if there's any mouth rinse here? We can't find any. And I was like, no, but in my head I was like, well, I've got some bottles of mouth rinse at home that I prepped. So there might be different reasons you might want to prep. Prepping doesn't have to be doomsday. You might want to prep in case you lose your job. And when it comes down to it, if you have to choose between paying the bills or eating, most of the time people are going to want to eat, because how else are you going to have the energy to look for work? It'd be nice to already have that food prepped so that you can just worry about paying the electric and just live off of what you prepped for a while. Another example of why you might want to prep would be unforeseen medical circumstances. I have a friend who started prepping, and about a short while after she started, she ended up having to be in the hospital for a few months because of her pregnancy. And because she had prepped, she ended up being able to take care of her family while she was in the hospital. And then let's talk about the type of prepping. Now, prepping isn't just food, but I'll mainly be speaking about food today. Like I said, I have mouth rinse prepped, hygiene care, batteries. Those who have wood stoves, we prep every summer for winter by building up our wood pile. Cleaning supplies are another good idea for prepping. Vitamins, medicines. At the start of the pandemic, sanitizer, toilet paper, and yeast. Those three things were some of the hardest stuff to find. Thankfully, when it comes down to toilet paper, me and my husband have a bidet, so we weren't too worried if things got too rough. We didn't feel the effect of the toilet paper shortage because we had bought up some beforehand. Then of course, like laundry stuff. Now, none of this did I ever panic buy. Panic buying and prepping are two separate things. Panic buying is typically those who are uneducated or unprepared in how to prep. Also, if you're panic buying, not that it's ever too late, but it's almost too late. Those who were panic buying toilet paper, well, they should have prepped a while before. The shortages are already here, kind of too late. Don't be a panic buyer, and don't go into debt with prepping. If you are going into the hole with prepping, you're doing it wrong. Oh, my stomach is so loud. I'm gonna have to get a bite to eat. Hold on, y'all. I just ate breakfast like 30 minutes ago, but here we are. As I was saying, if you're going to the store to buy a can of corn, buy 2 cans of corn. Use the 1 can of corn for your original purposes of buying it. The other can of corn, set in your pantry, forget about it. That's how you start prepping. If you're able to go to places like Sam's Club and buy things in bulk, that's always a good idea. I try to use organic stuff and I try to go as all natural as possible. However, you find something on sale, such as these beans. I would buy beans from the dollar store when I originally started. Not organic, but you know what? They store. And so this was a few years ago, and I would dry can them. Let's talk about storage. Well, there are different types of prepping with storage. There are things like MREs, or dehydrated food. You have things like My Patriot Supply, those kinds of brands that do dehydrated survival food, or like emergency food preparedness. I guess that's a good way of putting it. Those are good to have in a jiffy. Those aren't things you necessarily want to live off of. It's always nice having a proper home-cooked meal. But those are good to have on hand because whatever price you buy them at, it's pretty much locked in and they'll last for years. Then let's talk about the things that don't last as long. Canned food usually lasts about a year or a few years depending on what it is and how it was canned. I dry canned some beans and rice. Now there's certain stipulations with dry canning. You want things to be low in oil content, white rice, and certain beans. Don't do brown rice, from what I understand. Those dry canned things, which here they are, will last 15 to 30 years, depending on how it's stored. And I've already opened one and used it after it'd been canned for a few years, and it was perfectly fine. It was rice. I have, and you might be able to see, quite a bit of tuna and canned chicken. Tuna, this expiration date is 2024, and this one is 2024 as well. I might use a can of chicken, can of tuna. I will replace it by going to the store the next week and buying another can, and I will put that brand new can in the very back of the pantry and move everything forward. This is called a living pantry, and the point of it is so that things don't go bad. If you're buying up a lot of food and not using it and you're wasting, your Great Depression grandparents are looking down on you from heaven. They're probably crying because you're doing it all wrong. Wasting food is a huge prep no-no. Some preppers, if they notice that MREs are kind of getting close to the best by date, those preppers had been buying for a long time. And if they're getting close to the best by date, they'll start eating them up. They'll have an MRE for dinner or something. Typically, the best by dates are just guidelines. Some things, that's not necessarily the case. Do this with corn, do this with anything. Do this with anything that you can or buy. Always put the new stuff in the back, move that old stuff forward. Let's talk about necessarily what you want to buy. You want to take care of yourself and your family first, so only buy what you guys will eat first. You don't want to buy a bunch of beans and rice. I know it's the prepping staple. Everyone thinks when they hear prepping, they think beans and rice. You don't want to live off of that forever because you're going to get really depressed. It's bland. Even though you can dress it up, it's bland and it gets old, and we like a little bit of variety in our life. You want to buy things that you will eat. When it comes down to like food shortages and quarantine and pandemics and the whole 9 yards, tough times, basically hard times, the mental game is a huge part of it. If you're not mentally in a good place, you're not going to be doing well. Whether it's survival-wise or just overall getting through the hard times, you're not going to be doing good. A good way of starting with that mental game is having food that you enjoy. Being clean is also another thing. That's why I say prep shampoos, soaps, all that stuff, because if you're not clean, you don't feel good mentally either. But my husband likes hummus. Not necessarily a necessity, because you can survive, like I said, off of beans and rice and tuna. It would make his day if he hadn't had hummus in a while, and I made him hummus. Important ingredient in hummus are garbanzo beans or chickpeas. And I found these at that store that was having those bare shelves. And this best by date is 2026. That's a good shelf life. Another important part of prepping is growing your own food, because that can be cheaper than buying it. So if prices do go insane, you can be taking the edge off of that financial burden for you and your family by growing a garden or identifying wild edibles and medicinals, which is why you have me. So I plan on growing garbanzo beans in the future, but just in case I have a hard time at doing it, or you know, it doesn't work out, at least I have some prepped, and I have a few cans of these. Another part of prepping is you might not always have time for making a meal, so sometimes having meals canned is so nice. It's a godsend. And this has happened. I was sick recently, and having meals already canned was a godsend. By recently, I guess I should say a few months ago. I have two different types. I have canned soup that I bought at the store, and I have canned soup that I made with my friend. It's important that you have access to meals quickly in case you're needing to throw some meals in a bag, which MREs are good for that too. Or if maybe you're sick and you're the one who cooks for the household and all your kids can do is use a can opener, then by golly, throw your 10-year-old a can opener and let them get themselves some soup. Y'all good for a bit, you know what I mean? Buying things on sale will also save you money. Their Best By date might be close, and that might be why they're on sale. But some Best By dates, like I said, are just guidelines. For example, these Nature Valley bars, I found these woohooed. That's what the sticker says at Curse. Actually, it doesn't say that anymore. I just noticed. Is that on all of them? So Kroger's used to have a sticker that said woohoo. It said that. And that's how you knew it was on sale. It was a little sticker that looked just like that. No, they just say reduced now. That makes it less exciting. Anyways, I got these on sale. I bought up quite a few. I didn't buy up all of them because I'm not a panic buyer. Although, as a consumer, if someone wanted to buy a bunch of what there was, there's no paper that says limitations. That's pretty much the consumer's right. Well, I tend to think of leaving some for other people because there might be some people who might want some of these, who might be living on a very tight budget, and they like Nature Valley bars, and finding what you like to eat on sale is always nice. These will probably be used throughout the year with our climbing trips, with maybe our running, random outdoor stuff if we're out cutting wood or cutting trees down and cutting up firewood. Having a Nature Valley bar in your bag is great. Not to mention having just a prep bag in case something happened and one of us was injured out there and alone, or maybe we got lost in the woods. Just having some food with you all the time, having them in the car. My Trailblazer, when it was running, always looked lived in, maybe to a fault, but I always had like a blanket, extra shoes, snacks, stuff like that in there, so that if I broke down at any point, I was always good. And then usually in my purse I would carry like an herbal identification guide, different stuff like that. Let's talk about prepping things that you may not use, and here's why you might want to do that. Bartering. If things get hard and money gets tight for everyone, money's already tight for just about everyone, but things get even harder. Maybe somebody has something that you need and you have something that they need. Think of it in ways that everyone has their vice, what's going to help everybody through a mental hardship. My vice is caffeine for sure. I abuse it. We have different types of coffee put back. I also would buy these little instant coffee packets. Those are good for little barter items, or if you want to throw them in your bag in case you're on a camping trip and you need to pick me up, whatever. This is something that I will possibly use because, again, I do like caffeine. It's something I would use as well as a barter item. However, something that me and my husband don't eat: top ramen. This stuff is stupid cheap, or it typically was. Things are getting a little higher in prices now. But typically stupid cheap, easy to find, easy to buy, and just about everyone eats it. And it's a whole meal in itself to some people. These are good as barter items because, like I said, most people eat this, and it's a nice, easy, packable thing. I think maybe a push came to shove and me and Ryan were desperate we'd eat it. Some other examples of food that we've got prepped is oil. Different types of oil have different types of shelf life. Coconut oil typically lasts longer than olive oil on the shelf. I think that's where I'm gonna leave it. I have a bunch of other types of preps and from different types of food. animals prepped up, such as livestock, is always a decent prep. Knowledge is possibly your greatest prep, because if you have knowledge and you're scrappy enough, you can make it. Follow my blog posts, things like wild edibles and medicinals. I will be hosting classes starting this summer, spring, summer. If you're interested in consultations, I do take those. Your health is also one of the greatest preps. We'll get through this. It's just, how easy is it going to be for us? You know what I mean? Comment below and give me your opinion, please, on what you think of prepping. Have you always thought it was a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist thing? Were you against it, but now are you for it? Or are you still against it? Do you think it's unbiblical? Do you think it's biblical? Y'all hang in there, and I don't know. Give this video a like. Follow us. Subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Whatever YouTubers say.